Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the BG Show. A big one today is I'm going to get into my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2024. It's a little bit of a weird year. It's a little bit of a weak year, to be honest. Not a lot of prestige movies, not a lot of kind of huge movies that people are going to be excited about. But nonetheless, there are 10 movies that I am excited about. So without further ado, here are my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2024. Coming in at number 10, Godzilla Kong The New Empire. Now, while I'm excited for this movie, the reason it's not higher up on the list is we've already gotten the Godzilla Kong fight. I think the last movie was the big one. I'm kind of surprised they're making this movie. I guess I shouldn't be because it's doing well financially. But this movie, because we've already gotten the fight, I kind of feel like I know what to expect. I'm not expecting any more prestige stuff from Godzilla movies. Godzilla Minus One was very good, but from the American movies like this, I'm just hoping for some cool action fights, which I think we're gonna get. We're gonna get some really cool action scenes, a lot of CGI, obviously. But I think we've kind of moved on from the point of hoping these were going to become, I don't want to say Oscar movies, but even really good movies. These are like the definition of popcorn movie. I've seen some theories that the red Kong, which is I think called Scar King, is actually the real King Kong, and our Kong is just Kong. It's not King Kong, but we'll see. There's been some talk about Godzilla the way he runs in the trailer, but I don't think it's a big deal. So overall, I'm just kind of excited. It should be just an exciting, entertaining popcorn movie. If you want to catch up, I'd get into the earlier movies. So you got the first Godzilla, you have Kong, Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong, and then you have this, and you also have Legacy Monarch, which is a show on Apple TV. So this is my number 10. I'm pretty excited about it. Coming in at number 9, Kraven the Hunter, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I think is going to be the next James Bond, but that's a discussion for another day. Another movie out of the Sony Spider-Man universe. If you're unfamiliar with Kraven, he is a Spider-Man villain slash anti-hero who appears in the comic books. I know him from the animated series. He essentially is obsessed with hunting. He's a hunter. Sometimes he has superpowers. Other times he's just kind of like a big buff guy. He gets his powers from absorbing like a potion in the jungle, and his signature look is like he wears an actual lion's mane as his like vest. So I'm hoping for a pretty good, entertaining movie. Again, the Sony Spider-Man spin-off movies are pretty mediocre, but they're entertaining. I kind of love them. They're like 90 minutes of action. I don't have to take them too seriously. So I think this will be a good movie. I don't think we'll get any Spider-Man cameos or anything like that, but I'm a fan of this character from the animated series growing up, so I'm excited to see this movie. Coming in at number 8, the Karate Kid movie, which we don't have that much information on, but we do know it's going to have Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, so kind of characters from both of the kind of original movies and the spin-off movie, and then into Cobra Kai. I'm assuming it'll connect to Cobra Kai. I still have to catch up on that show, but I'm pretty excited for this movie. I think it'll be solid. I really like what they've done with that show. Even though I haven't finished it, the first few seasons that I've seen have been really good. I think that show is a really good example of how you kind of re-energize IP that's kind of dead. I think they've done a way better job than, something, let's say, like Ghostbusters, who's kind of like tailed off and doesn't have much juice. So I'm excited for this movie. I think it'll be good to see both of them together. We don't have much information, but I think this movie will do pretty well and be a pretty big movie towards the end of the year. Coming in at number 7, another movie from the Sony Spider-Verse, Venom 3. I am a much bigger fan of this trilogy, this franchise, than the average person. I think this is the ultimate kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but just kind of like, or not even mindless, but just kind of 90 minutes, like I said about Craven. In and out, exciting. I want to say exciting, entertaining. I've always been a fan of Venom since the animated Spider-Man show. I love Venom. I was super disappointed the way they portrayed him in Spider-Man 3. So just to get a trilogy like this with Tom Hardy, I love. A lot of people shit on this movie. You have to go into movies like this different than MCU movies, different than Batman movies. It's not the same thing. I'm hoping maybe we'll get Carnage back, Riot. Maybe we'll get Tom Holland in this movie finally, but I'll watch these movies as long as they make them. I thought the first one was probably a little bit better than the second one, but the second one is Carnage. So these are almost kind of like, I don't want to say cult comic book movies, but I'm a big fan of this movie. I'm sure it's not for the average person. This probably won't be on many people's top 10 list, but I just like these movies. Sorry. Coming in at number 6, Gladiator 2. Now, really, all I need to know about this movie is that Denzel's in it. Once I found that out, I'm like, I don't care what the plot is. I don't care what they do. I know this movie's going to be good just because of that. They got Ridley Scott coming back to direct. Obviously, they're going to have to do some sort of different script. as Russell Crowe's character dies, so he won't be in this one. I don't know if it's going to be a prequel. I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know where it's going to take place, but the fact that they have Denzel in it, like I said, is all I need to know. This will probably be one of, I don't want to say one of the, not a war movie, but probably one of the better historical movies of the year. I'm surprised they're making this movie, but it's been a while. I think 20, now 24 years. I believe it came out in 2000. So, um, yeah, I think this will be a pretty big movie. I don't have much information on it. Also, Paul Mescal's in it, who's more of like a Broadway kind of indie actor. So this will probably be one of his more mainstream roles, his first mainstream role. And yeah, I'm excited for this one. Coming in at number five, Joker 2, or Joker, whatever that name is, that weird title. I don't know how to pronounce it. I really loved the first one. A lot of people says, oh, it's gonna, give inspiration to shooters and all, and incels and all this stuff. And I don't think that was true. And while it certainly was portraying Joker in that type of way, I thought it was a really, really good dark movie. I consider this an Elseworlds movie. It's not the main portrayal of Joker. There's many portrayals. They're just making a movie, and this is one portrayal of him. But it was very, very good. This one I think is going to be a musical, so I'm not so excited for that. Although I think getting Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn is the right business decision. At the end of the day, you're doing this to make money, and she can sing. So if you're doing a musical, that's the way to do it. I think this movie, I don't know if it'll be as good as the first one, but I think this will be pretty good too. Another high degree of difficulty, but if they keep the same kind of, I'm going to say darker, but almost realistic. The first movie seemed very realistic when you're watching it. Keep that kind of tone. I think it could be very good. I don't know how many connections it'll have to the DC universe. I mean, they made him and Batman brothers in the last one, so that was a pretty big connection. But I'm expecting this to be, I don't know if it'll make $1 billion like the last one, but I'm expecting it to do well. Getting Lady Gaga, I think, will give it a lot of juice. In at number four, and honestly, this made a decent push for number one, Transformers 1, the animated Transformers movie coming later this year, starring Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, and a few other famous actors. I'm super excited for this movie. As you know, I love animation if you watch this channel. I love seeing kind of bigger IP that's been in live action movies, scaling it back, putting it in animation, especially a franchise like Transformers, which has kind of gone off the rails. I think they can do much, much better movies, much, much better TV shows in animation. So I'm very excited for this. Not only for this movie, but just kind of the trend of movies like this happening. This, back in the day, this would never happen. They would want these actors to do a live action movie, even if it was shit, because they wouldn't want to release an animated movie. So I'm super excited that they're not only making this, but they're making it for Transformers again. I think it's a franchise that has a lot of juice. Because what happens is you make movies like this and you have Mark Wahlberg in it, then all the conversation becomes about Mark Wahlberg, or even Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox before that. And I think that's just stupid. It should be about the characters of Transformers, not about these A-list actors. So I'm glad they're putting it in an animated format. Coming in at number three, and another movie that made a push for number one, another animated movie, another big franchise, Lord of the Rings. Not only animated, but specifically anime. This movie comes out towards the end of 2024. I hope this movie is huge. I cannot wait for this movie. I was not a fan of the live action show Rings of Power on Amazon Prime. I'm hoping this is good. I'm expecting it to be good. While I'm not as big of a Lord of the Rings fan as, let's say, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, things like that, I certainly am still a pretty big fan. And I'm super excited that they're deciding to do this again. Enough of the live action. Get into the animated stuff. Get into anime. This is going to get a whole new generation of fans into this potentially. There's a lot more you can do. It's not cheap, but it's way cheaper than making the most expensive show of all time, which was a total dud in my opinion. So I can't wait for this movie. What we've really only got is this still, but I mean, if this is what it's going to look like, it's going to be fucking epic. I can't wait. So stick around. This comes out, I'm not sure the exact date, but towards the end of 2024. Coming in at number two, no surprise here, probably what will end up being the best movie of the year, in my opinion, Dune 2. The only reason it doesn't come in at number one is because you'll see I have some other biases, but I loved the first Dune. A lot of people said it was slow, which, yeah, it was slow at first, but I went to the movie with really not knowing that much about Dune at all. All I kept hearing was it was adult Star Wars, so that obviously intrigued me. I never read the books, and I certainly agreed that was a good description. That's what it felt like. Way more than a movie, let's say, like Rebel Moon. That was not adult Star Wars. This was a lot of the things that they took from Star Wars took from this movie, like spice and the deserts and things like that. So a lot of people thought it didn't end on the right note. It kind of ended without a climax. Again, I disagree. Instead of making up kind of like a fake ending, it just kind of ended, almost. That's how a part one should be. It should just end. It shouldn't be. So it kind of feels like it should be two movies and, a part one and a part two, as opposed to two separate movies, which is good. But yeah, I'm excited for this movie. It was delayed. This is really going to be, I think, like the Oppenheimer kind of prestige movie that's still mainstream. A lot of time, the prestige movies, no one really talks about. But this movie, they're adding some new characters. They have some characters coming back from the old one. I think this movie will be better than the first one, and I think it'll definitely be Oscar nominated. And I think overall, this might end up being the best movie of 2024. And coming to number one, no surprise here, Deadpool 3. Now, I'm honestly not a huge fan of Deadpool, the character or the movies, but because we're getting Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, this really just catapulted up to number one. This could potentially be not only that, but the kind of jumping off point, the catapult launch point of X-Men in the MCU. So just for those reasons alone, it gets the number one slot for me. I do think this will be the best Deadpool movie. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. There are going to be a lot of cameos, which are already starting to leak. I'm hoping they can keep them together, unlike Spider-Man No Way Home, which is they just kept coming out of the woodwork, it seems like, every day. But just getting this picture alone, knowing we're getting finally the yellow comic-accurate suit, I think will catapult it up to number one for me. Again, I almost had this at number 4 because Dune and Transformers 1 and Lord of the Rings, the anime movie, I'm super excited about. But we've been waiting for X-Men in the MCU for so long that it just had to be number one. This movie, they really have to nail. It's Ryan Reynolds' debut in the MCU. We'll see how they handle the rated R stuff. But again, I'd be surprised if they don't nail this movie. I think this will be potentially the biggest movie of 2024. Was a huge win getting Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine. We already got some X-Men nods in Doctor Strange 2. We got Professor X and in the WandaVision show. So they've been kind of hinting at it. We're getting the X-Men 97 show this year as well, which might be number one if you just do TVs and movies, everything together. But this is a movie list. So that's my top 10 most anticipated movies. You might disagree with it. You might see some things that are left off. But again, these are movies that I care about the most. Sorry if I offended you. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.